When I tell you I was so mad. I was so mad. I had to get drunk to finish this book. Look at me filming YouTube videos. Who is she? I don't even know. Who am I? Okay, so I just filmed my top reads of 20... Why did I... Oh my god, why did I almost say 2014? That was weird. I just filmed my top reads of 2021 before this. And then it was only going to be a top 5 with, like, a quick mention of my other favorites, like my other, like, honorable mentions. And then it turned into talking about 15 books. So we're going to not do that this time. Yeah. Welcome to my most disappointing reads of 2021. So this is not necessarily the worst books that I read in 2021, although I'll probably blow through those at some point too. This isn't just all like my 1-star books that I read. This is most disappointing. So this is books that I wanted to be good, that I was excited to read, and then they turned out horribly. So there's like a 1-star, there's a couple 2 stars, there is a 3-star in here, like a low 3-star. But these are all books that I wanted to like, that I like really was excited for, or I had high hopes for, and those hopes were dashed horribly. So I think what I'm gonna do is I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 main like disappointing books, and then I also have sitting here my 1-star reads. So I'm probably gonna get through my first 4 disappointing reads, and then before I get to the big one, which is similar to the last video, if you follow me elsewhere, you know what it is, because I wouldn't shut the fuck up about it. I was mad. So before I get to that one, I will blow through my 1-star reads of 2021, just kind of throw those out there, books to avoid, and kind of like a quick rundown of why they were so bad. So on that note, the first one I'm going to talk about, I actually need to put the dust jacket on this because I just realized nobody's going to know what the fuck this is when I hold it up. But it's pretty. So we'll start with a positive. Look how pretty it is. Oh my god, pretty. Got sprayed edges. I mean, they're pink, but pretty. Okay, let me put the dust jacket on so we can... First up on my most disappointing reads of 2021 is going to be Kingdom of the Cursed by Carrie Maniscalco. Again, these are in no particular order. This is just the order that the pile I have in front of me is in. I was mad when I read this book. I was upset. Oh my god. Okay, so this is the sequel to Kingdom of the Wicked. I read Kingdom of the Wicked earlier this year. People hyped the shit out of that book. People hyped that book up so much. Like it was the best YA fantasy romance ever. I don't know why. I truly don't know why. I read Kingdom of the Wicked, and it wasn't bad. It's not terrible, but it's not that great. Like, it just kind of is. However, I think that if a sequel builds on a first novel really well, then the first novel is like, I like it more. Like the esteem rises in my mind. Like the star rating might go up. It might go from a 3.5 to a 4 if the sequel builds really well on what the first novel puts down. That makes sense? So, Kingdom of the Wicked, I was like, this is a 3.5, maybe. But it was okay. It wasn't bad. It wasn't great. It just kind of was. And then I was like, a sequel has a great opportunity to make this really good. I can see the potential here. I can see the groundwork. I can see where it could go from here. It could either get really bad or it could get really good. And I hope it gets really good. So, I didn't have high hopes for this, but I did have hope. I didn't want to not like it. I got it the day it came out. I wanted it to be good. I was excited. You kind of get like, oh, new books are coming out. Very exciting. And then I read this. I was so mad. So, it does not build. It does not build well on Kingdom of the Wicked. When I tell you I was so mad, I just kept waiting for the book to get good, and it never did, and it just kept getting worse, and it was a nightmare. It was an absolute nightmare. Look me in the eyes right now, right? Look me in the eyes. I will pay you real money dollars if you can cohesively explain the plot of this book to me. It cannot be done. It cannot be done! It cannot be done. There is no cohesive plot in this book. There's no, like, A to B to C. It's like A to F to Z to Y to G. It is all the fuck over the place. There's no, like, it's not, I don't even want to say it's not linear, because you can have non-linear stories that are good. There's just no, it's like scene to scene to scene with nothing connecting any of them. and it's not good. It was very upsetting. And then Emilia, our main character, is quite literally one of the worst main characters I think I've read in a long time. She's simultaneously so dumb that she can't pick up on very obvious things around her, and so smart that she can pick up and like make these logical leaps of things that are totally unknowable to the reader. Like, she will make decisions, or like in her head, like in her internal monologue, she'll be like, oh, it means this. And I'm like, where the fuck did you get? And she's right. Okay, apparently we're just, it's like she's right and she knows things just to move the plot along. And then any other time, she doesn't fucking know anything. Fucking head empty, no thoughts. This girl is dumb. And it's infuriating to read. So as a main character, she's not fun to read about. The only, Wrath carries this book on his back. He single-handedly is holding up this whole fucking series, and he's not in it enough for that to be okay. He's, like, barely in this compared to her. And I get it, she's the main character, like, obviously. But I'm just saying, like, if he's the reason that you're reading this, he's not enough. And then there's this super, really jarring switch from YA to NA. The first book, Kingdom of the Wicked, is young adult. It's very YA, it's for teenagers, it's written for teenagers, they're teenagers. And then, like, chapter 1, this makes a very fast switch to NA. It makes a very fast switch to new adult. We're suddenly talking about sex all the time. I think she, like, talks about dicks in the first chapter. Something in the first chapter where you're like, oh, okay, we're changing genres. Got it. Okay. And it's just bizarre, and it feels like a crutch. It feels like a crutch because the plot wasn't there, so she was like, let me make this other part more exciting because people really liked that. And then she doesn't even fucking, the cliffhanger that this leaves off is so fucking cheap. If you don't want to hear it, this is gonna be a spoiler. Skip ahead like 30 seconds. So the whole book has got this like YA thing, or not, sorry, this NA thing going on, and there's all these scenes of like, are they gonna have sex? Are they gonna bang? And she is like dragging you fucking across the world with, are they gonna have sex or not? And then it literally ends with them about to have sex, and then fucking just cuts. Like, they're walking to the bedroom, and then it's like, next book, and that is so fucking cheap. And if it weren't for the fact that that felt like it was the only thing carrying the book, I wouldn't care so much. But the fact that that feels like, it felt like a crutch the whole time, and then that's the cliffhanger she leaves off on, it feels very cheap. It's very like, buy my next book, see what happens, like, why are you dragging this out so much? It was very obnoxious. So it was this weird thing of, it felt like it was trying to go into like no plot, only smut kind of stuff. And like, I can respect that in an adult book. Why was the first book YA if you were going to do that? Anyway, I can respect that, but there's too much attempted plot for me to think that she's just going like head empty, no thoughts, only smut. And then there's not enough smut to make up for the fact that there's no plot. It was weird. It was very disappointing. 2.5 stars. Could not tell you the plot. As soon as I finished, like, I closed the book and I texted a friend of mine and I was like, wow, it was really bad. And he asked me like what I was reading. And I spent 45 minutes trying to explain the plot of this book. Couldn't do it. I couldn't, like, there is just message after message of voice notes of me trying to explain this. Could not be done. This was a nightmare. I will in fact be reading the third book because now that I've read the first two, there's fucking no reason for me not to read the third. So at some point, I'm gonna read the third book. I guess. Maybe I can get it like secondhand. I can probably borrow it from somebody. Oh god. I don't want to. That'll be like when I have literally nothing to do for like a couple days. And I'm just like, let me get this out so that I just can't leave a series read 2 of 3. I can't do it. Alright. You're going back. Go away. Okay. That was already longer than I wanted it to be. I didn't want to talk that long. These were going to be pretty quick, alright? We're going to make the rest of these. This next one will be pretty quick because there's already a video on it. So, the next up on my list of most disappointing books from the year is going to be The Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake. This is another one that was massively, massively hyped up on TikTok, especially on TikTok. Like, it got huge there, and then it was suddenly in all the stores, and then she got picked up by a publisher. So actually my favorite publisher is doing the book now. It's getting a re-release in March. Why was this hyped up? Literally, for what reason? Why? There's too many characters. Sorry, there's not too many characters. There's too many points of view. In a book less than 400 pages, there are 6 points of view that she switches between. not well, terribly balanced. The characters aren't developed, the world isn't developed. Explain to me the magic in this book. Make it make sense, because there's no world building in this. There's no world building in this. I'm gonna kind of just leave it pretty much there. This was our November book club book, so if you go back a couple videos, our book club video on this is up, where I think that was like a really long one. That was a really long one. So you can hear me talk a lot and see the other book club reviews. I will say I gave this like a low 3, and our overall book club, the average rating for everybody was a 3.04, and I want to say the story, I think, was in like the upper 2 range, and the writing style, I think, may have also been in the upper 2 range. This just isn't great. I really hope that it's being revised before Tor publishes it. I really hope there are some big, big, big revisions. I have a fear, though, that because it got so big on its own and because it got like so successful as it is, they're not going to change much. I am terrified for the sequel because it introduces 6 new characters at the end of this book, and if the next book is 12 points of view, I will gouge my own eyes out. This was not fun. This was an upsetting read. When I tell you, I was so excited. I was so excited for this book. Anyway, speaking of books that I was really excited for, and this is my own fault, okay? This is my own fault. So, up next on my list of the most disappointing reads of 2021 is the Octonomi. How pretty that is. Do you see how pretty that is? You see this? It's gorgeous. That is the fanciest paperback that I've ever seen in my life. Look at the pages. This is the most expensive paperback that I own. I'll tell you right now, it's just pretty. It's just pretty. There's not a lot going on in here. It's so long, and for what? For why? So, this is my own fault. I bought this because TikTok told me to. I watched somebody do an unboxing of this, or like an unpackaging of this on TikTok, and it's gorgeous. This book, I'll tell you, this book is gorgeous. And the packaging when you get it is so nice. It's got a lot of mystery about it. The only place that you can buy this book is on the author's website. It ships from the UK, so it's expensive as fuck. It is so expensive. Until just now, because I read this, I think in January, either January or February. This was an early read. And up until now, I'd forgotten. I'd been able to put out of my mind how much money I spent on this book. And now I'm thinking about it again, and I'm upset. Because there's no reason. There's truly no reason for it. So the Octonomi is very pretty. It's very mysterious. There's not a lot of information on what the book is. The synopsis is very mysterious. And I was like, oh, I'm intrigued by this. We'll see what this is. And it's a YA, I guess. You could even almost call it middle grade. No, it's not middle grade. I would call it YA. So it's a YA, like steampunky fantasy. And I really wish I could explain to you the world that it exists in. Or, no, the world is fine. I wish I could explain the plot to you, but there isn't one, really. There's just not. So this book is like 500 pages, and the central plot, I think, did not start until like page 380 or something ridiculous like that. The plot takes forever to start, and just when you feel like it's finally like getting going, the book ends in the middle of a sentence, and not like a fun kind of cliffhangery, oh my god, what's gonna happen next? It's like they are literally in the middle of a conversation, in the middle of a sentence, you're finally starting to feel like things are picking up, and it just, last page, over. The overwhelming feeling I got from this book is that the author, I believe it's by Trevor Allen Forrest, the author had a really very cool idea for a world. He had this big, sprawling, steampunky fantasy world in his mind, and he was more interested in writing about the world than writing about a story within that world. So there's not much of like a cohesive plot. There's not much of a connecting story or like a story that kind of takes you through everything. It's very confusing. Like there are fundamental world building things that are not explained for like 400 pages. I will link to my Goodreads review. I have a pretty solid Goodreads review. I feel really bad about this. This is one of my only reviews where it's so like on Goodreads, the top 3 reviews are displayed on the front page for the book. And mine is like the second one. I think I have the number 2 review on this book, and it's a 2-star, and it's not mean. I'm not like attacking the author. I'm just like, hey, here's why I didn't like it. Here's why I rated it 2 stars. But I do feel bad, and the author liked my review. I was like, this wasn't, sir, this wasn't for you. I didn't mean for you to see this. Goodreads is for the readers, sir. It's for the readers. I wanted to warn other people. I didn't necessarily. I'm sorry. I do legitimately feel bad. I'm not going to delete it because I stand by everything I said, and it's good to warn people of these things and be like, hey, here's what I thought, because I had no information going in, and I think the mystery is probably on purpose because there's not a lot to it. So this is also, it's called the Octonomi, what is it actually called? Fosbit Files Prologue. And apparently this is the first, it's the prologue, it's the first in a very long series of like 12 books or something that are going to come out. This does not make me want to read anything else. This does not make me want to read anything else in this series. Somebody, I think, talked to me and they were like, oh, well, that's kind of why it was so, like, there wasn't a lot going on. It's supposed to be the prologue. But the prologue is like 500 pages. So it does need to have a story. Yeah, that was the Octonomi. Also, you can kind of see the foiling. Let's see if that'll focus. The gold foiling is falling apart. So if you do get this, because it's very pretty and you want to read it, be very careful about touching it because it doesn't like oils. But it is a gorgeous book. At the very least, it's a nice display. I'm upset about how much money I spent on you. Okay. I'm still mad about this. Why is this just gonna make me more angry? Okay, so number 4. These aren't really in any order. The 4th book I'm gonna talk about, books that I was excited for. When I tell you I had the release date for this, like, written down, I was waiting for this. I went out. I was sick the day this came out, and I still went out and got this the day it came out. I read it in one sitting. Final Girl Support Club by Grady Hendrix. I'm still mad about this one. This one hurt me. I'm still upset about it. So I had thoughts going into this. I had an idea of what I thought it was going to be. I will say, I think part of the failing of this is on the marketing, and whether that's the author who did the blurb or the publisher or whoever, part of it is the marketing. So the way that this book was sold to me and what I thought this book was going to be was a support group filled with final girls who are basically the women who make it to the end of a horror movie. So there's that trope that at the end of the horror movie, there's always one woman left alive. And the idea was that there's a support group of those women. So these horror movie scenarios have happened in real life, and there's a collection of these women, and they've formed a group to help each other. And then they start dying, like, one by one. And they have to figure out, like, somebody's coming after them, something's happening. So that's the book that I was sold. That's the book that was marketed to me, that I was sold. It's not what this book is. Like, it is, but it's not. But it is, but it's not. I will say, I had reservations going in. I was worried because Final Girl Support Club does imply that most of the characters are women. And Grady Hendrix is a man. I had reservations about a book filled mostly with women written by a man because it's not a secret. It's very hard sometimes for men to write women well. I don't know why. Women don't tend to have the same problem. This book did in fact remind me why I seek out female authors over male authors most of the time. I was right to worry. I will say there's like 3 main male characters in this, and everybody else is a woman. 98% of the cast is women, and I cannot stand this. Legally, this man should not be allowed to write women. Is not allowed. Not allowed. And I haven't read anything by him before. This is the first and only book I've read by him. I will not be seeking out anything else, but I know the Southern Vampire Book Club book, also about women. I think My Best Friend's Exorcism or something, also about women. I don't know why this man is writing women, but if they are like this book, stop. Please. The way that I described the main character in this book, and this is what stuck with me, because I told a few people, I was like, she reads like a feminist who was written by somebody who neither understands nor particularly likes feminists. It's not a flattering view of girl power. It's really not. For a support club, there is no support between these women. Why? Truly, why did all of them have to be women? And why did this man feel like this was his story to tell? I just gotta know. Like, why did Grady Hendrix think, I'm gonna write a story about these women? Sir, why? No, I'm begging you not to. I'm begging you not to. It was just, I think at one point, one of the things that stuck with me was there's a scene where the main character is watching her therapist like make breakfast for her sons. Like, her therapist has 2 kids and she's making breakfast for them. And one of them is a teenager and one of them is an adult or something. But the way the internal monologue of the main character, she's like upset at seeing this woman, this doctor, this really smart woman relegated to like a line cook for these boys. And I was like, she's their mom. She's making them breakfast. What the fuck? What do you think? I don't know what he thought he was doing, but it was just really weird. It was really weird. So that's kind of that stuff where I was like, I feel like you thought you were being a feminist, but you don't understand feminism. You don't really like them either, because you don't paint a good picture of them. It was weird. The plot didn't make a lot of sense. I was kind of looking for a horror book, and this is not a horror book. It is shelved everywhere with horror. It's not horror. This is not a scary book. It's maybe suspense. No, it's not suspense. It's maybe mystery. Maybe a mystery. This is not horror. I don't know what this is. It was just upsetting. This was upsetting is just the word for it. And I wanted to like this. I was excited for this. I was like, I like this premise. I like this concept. And then I read it and I was like, what the fuck was that? So I want to say I gave this 2 stars. The resolution of the plot was really weird. Just, again, I will link my Goodreads down below. Did I say anything in that I didn't say here? Oh, okay, so I went and looked at my own Goodreads review. That probably would have been the smart thing to do before I started talking. So one of the things that bugged me about this book is it's very self-aware. It's very self-aware of horror movies and the different, like, tropes that you get in them and the whole, like, stupid mistakes that people make in horror movies that get them killed. It's very self-aware and it mocks those things to a point. Because it simultaneously mocks those things and has their characters make the exact same mistakes. So I'm like, I need you to pick one. Either you're going to tongue-in-cheek make fun of it, or you're going to perpetuate it. I need you to pick one. Because putting both in there was just very weird. It was just, and like the mystery of it was really, really, really telegraphed. It was very obvious the direction that it was going and where it was going to end up. Which is fine, I guess. But it was just, this was disappointing. It was disappointing. That was a bummer. That was a bummer. I was excited about that one. So, with those 4 out of the way, there's one remaining, like, giant disappointment of 2021. But before we get to that, I do want to rapid-fire run through the 1-star reads that I had this year. Okay, so those 4 were all 2-star books, except for the Atlas 6, which was a low 3. I did give it a low 3. As far as the worst books that I read this year, that's going to be Life and Death, Twilight Reimagined. I would like to preface this and say it was a joke taken too far. I did not intend to ever read this book. This is the gender-swapped Twilight book that Stephenie Meyer wrote because she was sick of people calling her out for her anti-feminism whatever in Twilight. Hilariously, this just makes it way more obvious. This is bad. This is an objectively poorly written book. This is bad. I'm not even gonna say anything. There's a book club video. It was our January book club book where I talk about it. This is bad. Oh, this was one I wasn't really expecting. So I got into romance novels and romance books this year, and a lot of them were kind of middling. They're fun, you know, but nothing special. I read some really, really good ones. I read some ones that I really liked. And then one of the ones that was kind of just middling, it was like, okay, there was nothing bad about it, there was nothing great, was To Love Jason Thorne by Ella Mays. It was okay. It wasn't phenomenal. It wasn't bad. It was fun. It like kept me busy for a couple of days. So I read that one, and then I read the sequel, To Hate Adam Connor, which no, absolutely not. The meet cute in this romance novel is that she is stalking. Well, I won't say stalking. She's spying on him. She's living with a friend who's his neighbor, and she spies on him by putting a ladder between their, like on the wall between their houses, and she watches him in his backyard, usually playing with his little 5-year-old son, and she takes pictures on her phone, and that's the meet cute. How is that turning into a romance? That is illegal. It is a crime, ma'am. That is a full crime. So it's just really creepy to start out with. And I was already like, oh, I don't know about this. But then what really drags it down for me personally, like the book is kind of whatever. And then toward the end, it gets completely out of nowhere. It gets very slut-shamey, pro-life, and anti-adoption. I don't know how you're pro-life and anti-adoption. It was weird. It took a really weird, bizarre turn to just, like, where did these things come from? It was weird. It was not fun. I think 1.5, 1.25 stars. It was bizarre. When I'm telling you, I was so mad. I was so mad. I had to get drunk to finish this book. Gothichana by Runix. This is legitimately one of the objectively worst books I have ever read in my entire life. I cannot express to you how bad this is. This author cannot structure a paragraph to save their life. This book was not edited. There is nothing that makes me angry faster in a book than when I can tell that an author didn't even bother to, like, run spell check before they published it. Okay, that cut me off, but I don't know where. I'm gonna assume it was just when I was looking for this. Yeah, so one of the things that really killed me, there's a lot of typos in this book. One of the things that really killed me is, like, for a lot of chapter breaks, there is this, like, fancy art page, whatever, that has, like, a quote on it from something. And you would think that if you're just copy and pasting a quote, that would be spelled right. Right? I'm sorry, is that how you spell serpents? Does that say serpents? Serpents. It's embarrassing. When I physically, I was like, I got secondhand embarrassment from reading this. I was upset. It was bad. I will say, I was talking to somebody who was also reading it, but they were reading the ebook, and she didn't notice nearly as many typos. So the ebook may have been updated and edited. The paperback has never heard of the word editing, ever. I will also link my Goodreads review of this. It's much longer. It talks more about how, even outside of, like, the editing, the plot is not good. The romance is underdeveloped. Everything about this book is underdeveloped. Yeah. 1 star. Don't recommend. This was a nightmare. I had like 100 pages left and I had to start drinking. I was like, I can't do this sober, which is a double-edged sword because I read slower when I'm drunk. This was upsetting. And okay, so my final 1-star review is slightly my own fault. So it's Bared to You by Sylvia Day. And this was an accidental purchase from a, blind date with a book kind of thing, where basically you're given maybe a slight synopsis, but usually not. Usually you're just picking a genre, and then you buy that book, and then it's sent to you, and you just get whatever they give you. So I bought one. It said dark romance. And this is my fault. I didn't know what dark romance meant. I heard dark romance, and I thought, ooh, Crimson Peak, gothic romance. No, not what dark romance meant. I learned new things. I learned a new genre, is what I learned. Because this is 300 pages of stalking and sexual assault and psychotic behavior. And it's all under the guise of romance. It's just a series of crimes. There's a series of crimes that is committed against this woman. And then she apparently loves. It's weird. It was weird. It was a bad time. It was a bad time. I didn't like this. 1 star with the caveat that it's my own fault. If I had known what dark romance was, I wouldn't have picked it up. But regardless, even outside of the subject matter, it's poorly written. It's not good. It's bad. It's bad subject. It's bad writing. It's bad dialogue. It's just bad. Okay. All right. All right. So those are my 1 stars. Those are my 1-star reviews. There is one more 1 star. It is also my most disappointing read of the year. I am not going to spend too much time on this because I have talked about this ad nauseum. If you're on there's like a whole thing on my Instagram. Anyway, all right. I'm gonna stop stalling. We all know what it is. We all know what book I'm about to hold up. Empire the Vampire by J. Kristoff. Can we start by saying this book is fucking gorgeous? I have the Illumicrate edition. This book is gorgeous. And for what? For what reason? Why? Hang on. Look at that. Look at that. Why are you so pretty? For what? For the ugliness you hide inside? This is the single most misogynist piece of writing I have ever had the misfortune to read. the borderline pedophilia of its obsession with underage characters and with sexualizing underage characters is bizarre. It's uncomfortable. I don't like it. I had a bad time with it. The repetitive and bland language is just... This is 700 pages. Why? For no reason. This book could be about 300 pages shorter. You get all the same information. Just take out the meandering language because it's not good. It is boring writing. It is bland. It is tasteless. The only thing about it that's like a little bit of seasoning is a crutch. He uses the word fuck like at least once a page, sometimes more, multiple times a page. And I'm like, that doesn't make your writing exciting. Your language is still boring. You just say fuck every other sentence. It was obnoxious. This was, when I tell you I knew 40 pages in that this was going to be bad. And I cannot DNF books. I used to be able to. I don't really know what happened. It's like a weird thing now. If I start a book and I don't finish it, or if I put it down, it just sits in the back of my brain and like fucking needles at me, and I can't focus on anything else until it's done. And so I know that I have to finish. So about 40 pages in, I was getting bad vibes. I was getting real bad misogyny vibes from this, and I couldn't stop. And I knew, I was like, I have another 700 pages to go. Not good. Not good. Bad times. This turned into a horrible, horrible buddy read with a couple of friends of mine. It is the only thing that kept me sane. It was actually really refreshing to be able to look at a scene or a line or, you know, just anything in this book and have that voice in my head that's going, why is this being so hyped up? Because that's the other thing. This is an international bestseller. This is an international bestseller. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, does nobody see this? Am I the only thing, like, am I the only person seeing it like this? And so having people read it with me and being able to be like, hey, do you guys see this? And having them agree and having them also point out things that are just horrible. Just horrible. It was very refreshing because it was one of those moments of like, am I crazy? Because all I had seen, the reason this was so disappointing is that all I had seen all over my feed were 5-star reviews. People love this book. I saw nothing but 5-star reviews for this book. It was not until I posted a review that gave this book 1.25 stars that I had an influx of messages from people that were agreeing with me. I have never had so many responses to anything I've posted on that account as when I was shitting on this book. Because while I was reading it, I was like updating my Instagram stories. I was just like, I need to bitch about this because I don't like this and I'm making it everybody's problem. And I have never had the response that I've had to that. And all of a sudden, people were everywhere. Like, yeah, I DNF'd it. I didn't like it. I made it through, and I don't understand why people like it. I'm like, where are those reviews? Where were those? I need them, because I would not have read this book if I had known. Every single woman is called a bitch multiple times. The one that made me laugh, because at a certain point you just have to laugh, is that there's a character that you're under the impression is male, and you find out that they're actually female. Literally, I think the line after you find out, the main character calls her a bitch. Never occurred to him to call her a bitch before. But the second he finds out she's a girl, she's a bitch. Every single woman in this book is a bitch. Multiple times. Almost every single named female character dies. Almost every single significant female in his life is fridged for the purpose of continuing his plot line. This is just a bad time. And on top of all of that, it's not even particularly like, there's nothing great about it. The language, like I said, is like, it's a personal preference, but I found the language to be very bland, be very dry and dusty. I did not appreciate the point of view. I'm not a huge fan of the point of view of like somebody telling the story to somebody else. So the point of view of the book is basically the main character, Gabriel, is telling a story to somebody else. That's already not a point of view I love. It can be done really well, but it's not a point of view I love. But I don't like the way that he did it, the way that the listener would interrupt constantly to force Gabriel to give exposition. Once I caught on that it was just forced exposition, it was all I could see, and it was very obnoxious. Just everything about it, the way that it treats underage characters, the fact that there are 2 timelines to choose from, one where the main character is underage, and one where he's 32, and all of the sex scenes are in the underage timeline in an adult book was fucking weird. This book was uncomfortable. This was an uncomfortable experience. And I had such high hopes going in because, first of all, it's gorgeous. It was an Illumicrate book. It was a book that everybody was excited about. I heard about this book for months before it came out. And all I knew about Jay Kristoff was that people love him. I've never read his work before. I know he has a couple other series. I don't really know anything about the guy. I will never touch another book this man writes. Ever. Oh my god. Oh my god. This was upsetting. If you would like to hear more, because I'm gonna just not. If you're curious to hear more, I have a Goodreads review. I will link down below. There's a story highlight on my Instagram called, I have two. There's an Empire the Vampire review, and there's an Empire the Vampire read, and one of them is like real time, and then one of them is an actual review. But yeah, this was a nightmare. This, I think, was the single worst reading experience I've ever had in my life. This was upsetting to my core. I really, really wish that DNFing was not an issue for me, because I would have loved to DNF this. Oh, before I forget, you may notice there are a lot of colored tabs in here, and you're like, oh, what is that? Look at that. That's a lot. So, yellow is every derogatory word used for a woman. Bitch, slut, whore, cunt. You get it. So all of those yellows are derogatory terms thrown at women, and the orange is a little more subjective. It's a little more, you know, personal. It's every time that I rolled my eyes because something was so obviously written by a man. It was the constant prostitute jokes. His obsession with prostitutes is weird. It's weird. He brings them up all the time as like the butt of a joke. I'm like, you need to talk, bro? Like, you talk about them a lot. It was the prostitute jokes. It was the yo mama jokes. There are a lot of yo mama jokes in this. Why? It was basically the sense of humor in this book is like a 13-year-old boy in a Call of Duty lobby. And I grew up on Xbox Live lobbies. I don't need that anymore. I'm a grown woman. I have matured in my life. How is this man not? The humor and the writing style, it just is very like, I would not have guessed that this was a middle-aged man, but also this could only be written by a middle-aged man, so I don't know. This was a bad time. Anyway, there you have it. Those are my most disappointing reads of the year. Was Empire the Vampire by Jay Kristoff, The Final Girl Support Club Support Group by Grady Hendrix, The Octonomi by Trevor Allen Forrest. You can tell I'm just looking at the books on my floor. The Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake, and Kingdom of the Cursed by Carrie Moniscalco. Alongside my 1-star reviews for the year, which was Gothichana by Runix, To Hate Adam Connor by Ella Mays, Bared to You by Sylvia Day, and Life and Death, Twilight Reimagined by Stephanie Meyer. What wonderful company to be keeping with my other 1-star review. Anyway, if you want something more positive and you haven't seen it, prior to this, I did upload my top reads of 2021, which is much more exciting. It's much happier. I have a good time with that one. Yeah, that was a lot. So, they can't all be winners. These things happen sometimes. Would not recommend any of these books. If you do want recommendations, check out my top reads of 2021. And, yeah, I'm gonna go now. Oh, I'm gonna have dinner.